Good evening and welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
Yes, hello, good evening. Here are tonight's main stories.
The Rail Minister declares it's full steam ahead with £4 billion to upgrade TransPennine travel. Commuters point out that, like many current services, it's well overdue.
You've got to check the app the night before, you've got to check the app in the morning, you're on the way to the train station, oh, it's cancelled, cool. Again.
This railway hasn't had much money spent on it since it was originally built for us by the Victorians, and so we really need this money spent now, otherwise it would literally fall apart.
I've been speaking to the Rail Minister about those billions and to the people who travel on trains day in, day out. Find out what they had to say later.
Also tonight, armed police shoot and kill 2 dogs thought to be XL bullies after an attack in Sheffield. We'll have more details from the scene.
In sport, Back to the Future after a 5-0 battering by Burnley. Could it be the heave-ho for Heckingbottom as the Blades welcome back Wilder?
Ho ho ho, elves, ready, steady, go.
And find out how Santa's little helpers in Barnsley here went on an elf kick and raised thousands for their local hospice. So first tonight, the Rail Minister came to West Yorkshire today where he promised almost £4 billion to help free thousands of travellers from the misery of slow, late and unreliable train services.
Hugh Merriman says the TransPennine upgrade will transform east-west connectivity. But campaigners tonight say the upgrade, like many trains, is long overdue and simply doesn't deliver enough. Well, Katie Oscroft joins us now from Huddersfield Station. Starting with today's announcement, what's going to happen, Katie?
Well, Sally, the Rail Minister went to Ravensthorpe near Dewsbury today, which is just a few miles from here, to a site which he said is key to his plans. Now, jobs have been created there and there will be more, and the Minister said it will house the power supply for the electrification of the line from Huddersfield here through Leeds and York, and also the 2 rail lines running alongside it. Well, they will become 4. The Minister said that will mean more seats, more trains and faster trains. He says he's directing all of this money at the north because he's mindful of how important transport is to the economy.
The new digital signalling which is in place that allows trains to talk to each other rather than using line-side signalling, that's being put in here. So all these innovations and the money is being spent up north, as he's right, because the north just hasn't had a good enough service, and that's what we're determined with this investment to correct.
Well, that all sounds great, Katie, but I'd imagine that those who are using the service day in, day out will want to know when they'll actually reap the benefits.
Well, that, if you like, Sally, is the bad news. It will be the end of this decade into the 2030s before these things come online for passengers. And bear in mind what people here have been through already. It was only earlier this year when TransPennine Express was taken back into government control because it was deemed to be so unreliable. Commuters here, well, they rolled their eyes when I told them about the timescale.
You've got to check the app the night before, you've got to check the app in the morning, you're on the way to the train station, oh, it's cancelled, cool. Again.
I'm a hairdresser, so obviously I have clients in all the time, and then if I'm late for a client, then it just ruins the whole schedule.
Of announcements, there's been pauses in work, re-announcements and financial evaluations. So my concern is this has taken rather too long, and I really do welcome this. And we will still have nearly another decade of works on improvement, electrification, and of course there will be those bus replacements and train diversions.
The government says this TransPennine upgrade is vital to its whole levelling up the north agenda, Katie. So how's that gone down with its critics?
Well, earlier, Ian, I spoke to Henry Murison, who's the head of the Northern Powerhouse Partnership. He was scathing about this announcement. He says he's heard most of it before, and he said that there are much needed improvements which were not even mentioned.
Mostly what it's doing is keeping the thing from falling apart. I mean, this railway hasn't had much money spent on it since it was originally built for us by the Victorians, and so we really need this money spent now, otherwise it would literally fall apart. What it isn't going to do is transform connectivity to Bradford. That still requires more investment, and until we spend money on the East Coast Main Line to get up to Newcastle, these trains will have nowhere to go because there's nowhere to park them at Leeds.
Well, the point was made that all of this was costed as long ago as 15 years ago. The price tag then was millions. Today, of course, it is billions. Critics say, well, that's down to delays and cancellations by governments. Echoes of what commuters here have been telling me that they have to put up with every day.
Katie Oscroft live at Huddersfield railway station. Thank you very much. Now, next tonight, it's proved to be a lifeline for domestic abuse sufferers for 3 decades, offering women specialist therapeutic care to help cope with trauma they've endured.
The service, which Vida Sheffield provides, is completely free and is always oversubscribed.
Yet now that lifeline looks set to disappear forever unless the charity can raise tens of thousands of pounds before the end of next month. Lisa Adlam has the story.
Yeah. I'm like, God, I've come a long way.
Sessions like this at Vida in Sheffield allow women to take the first steps to recovery from the trauma of domestic abuse. Many, like Gemma, who now represents the charity's users, and young mum Bex, struggle to find the help they needed through the NHS and elsewhere. The free therapy provided here has enabled them to tackle a debilitating cycle of PTSD, anxiety and depression.
A lot of services in the NHS are not trauma informed, and they are not accessible for people with PTSD. I wouldn't have been able to get myself out of that hole. So if it wasn't for Vida, I would still be in those vicious cycles and struggling with all this trauma and stuff like that.
The service is just phenomenal. It saved me. It came at the right time. And I was pretty much straight into the service and got that support straight away, which really I needed at that time. So it's just been a life-changing process finding Vida.
It's a life-changing process for around 250 women from across Sheffield every year, more than half of whom are referred to Vida by the NHS. But now the charity's future is at risk. Funding cuts and fewer grants on the table mean it needs to find £54,000 by the end of January just to survive.
We've just found ourselves, sadly, in a crisis situation now where we have to take action, let our service users know that we're winding up our services at the end of January 2024.
We have 60% of our clients are referred to us from the NHS. So we're a lifeline for the NHS as well. If we're not here, then where do those women go? Where do those women and girls go? They're going to go back to the NHS.
It's such a false economy to stop a charity like this after without really thinking about truly what you're losing after all of those years of support, expertise, networks that have been built up. So anything that we can do, we need to do to support these charities.
Karen and her team are waiting for the outcome of a government funding application and hoping for the best. But there are very real fears that this charity, which takes its name from the Spanish word for life, is a lifeline that could soon be cut off. Lisa Adlam, ITV News, Sheffield.
Well, the Home Office has responded and told us it classified violence against women and girls as a national threat and said it had provided more than £140 million to support victims, with an additional £12 million in the recent autumn statement.
You're watching Monday night's calendar. Thanks for joining us. Still to come this evening. In sport, Chesterfield fans really did become their side's 12th man, clearing their snow-covered pitch and allowing the Spyrights to knock League One Leyton Orient out of the FA Cup.
And talking of snow, Sydney here had a great time in the weekend's wintry conditions. But is there more of the white stuff on the way? Stay tuned to find out. A third was seized and a 27-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of having a dog dangerously out of control.
Two dogs
believed to be XL Bullies, have been shot dead by armed police in Sheffield after officers deemed they posed a significant risk to the public. Adam Fowler reports.
Members of the public reported that 3 dogs were running loose here on Handsworth Road in the Darnall area of Sheffield. Officers were called here just before 9 a.m. yesterday morning and they were told that at least 2 of the dogs had escaped from a nearby property. Also, that they'd already attacked a dog as it was being walked. That dog sustained injuries that required veterinary attention, and also the person walking the dog also sustained injuries and required hospital treatment. Well, officers were called to Handsworth Road to find the dogs, and when they did, they were described as becoming increasingly aggressive and posing a significant risk to the public. 2 of them were killed by firearms officers in order to prevent any further injuries. A third was seized by South Yorkshire Police. A 27-year-old man from Sheffield was arrested on suspicion of having a dog dangerously out of control. Part of the road was closed following the attack, and an investigation is ongoing surrounding the circumstances that led to the dogs running loose. Anyone who can provide further information is urged to get in touch with South Yorkshire Police. Adam Fowler, ITV News, Darnall in Sheffield.
More of the day's news. And a fire which ripped through a house in Bradford, killing 1 man, was started by an e-bike battery, according to the fire service. It happened in the early hours of Saturday morning in Finch Street. A man, a woman and a child managed to escape from the property, having suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Sadly, a second man was brought out of the property by emergency services but died at the scene. Today, a spokesperson for West Yorkshire Fire Service said the blaze was caused by a lithium-ion battery from an e-bike which had been charging in the living room.
A prolific beggar in Doncaster has been jailed for 11 years for stabbing a pensioner in the neck who'd previously given him £50. Robert Christian followed his victim, who's in his 70s, home from shops in Bolby before demanding cash. When he refused, 34-year-old Christian barged his way into his home and stabbed him in the chest and neck. After admitting robbery and assault occasioning grievous bodily harm, he received an 11-year custodial sentence and a 5-year extension period. Detective Constable Alexandra Owen called it an horrendous attack on a vulnerable elderly man and added, "It's disgusting, and this is how he repaid his kindness." And electric vehicle ownership continues to rise, of course, and are we seeing a new phenomenon known as the charge rage, with reports that some EV drivers are confronting others at charge stations due to a lack of public places to top up their batteries.
Yes, plug-in vehicles roughly outnumber charging points by a ratio of 30 to 1. That's according to data from the DVLA, and now it's led to some motorway service groups to consider hiring security staff at their charging points to deter disputes. Nick Smith has more.
Electric car ownership has surged in recent years, with 1 in 5 new registered vehicles powered by plugs. But the country's charging infrastructure is still trying to catch up with demand. And tempers can sometimes boil over. Paul Benson is an EV owner in Selby and says the public charging network still isn't fit for purpose, and sometimes a lack of driver etiquette can lead to heated exchanges.
A couple of months last year we were living with my parents who haven't got a charging point, so I was reliant on public points, and it was an absolute nightmare. Not enough of them, overused, and the biggest one is when you put your car on charge, go off and have a coffee or do some shopping or whatever, and come back to find that someone's whacked the emergency stop button so they can take the charger off and put it onto their car. That's resulted in some harsh words on more than one occasion.
One of the UK's biggest motorway service providers, Moto, has recently started employing marshals at some of its charging sites to prevent confrontation. Another, the Road Chef Service Group, tells me they haven't yet resorted to that measure, but haven't ruled out outdoor attendance in the future, especially at peak periods like the Christmas getaway.
We are trying to roll out high-power chargers at pace across our entire estate. We understand that we are key and play a pivotal role in making sure that there's enough charging provision. So if there are any concerns or issues, there are people available to be able to come out and help. Currently at this moment in time we haven't seen or needed that outside in the car park area, but it's something that we constantly monitor.
Rapid chargers, like you can find now at many service stations, can fully charge an electric vehicle in 30 minutes. But on days where it's fairly chilly, like today, or when 2 vehicles are plugged into the same unit, that can extend the charge time. And your basic chargers, commonly found in public car parks, well, they can take up to 6 hours to fully charge the vehicle batteries.
I think anxiety over charging points is a huge thing, because it's all well and good when you buy your electric car and you install your home charger. The difficulty is going to come when you're actually making longer journeys and you're out of position having to look for a charger. And although there has been an awful lot of change over the last few years and more chargers are going in, it still really isn't enough focused in the places that people really need it.
The Department for Transport says there is a target to have 300,000 public chargers operating by 2030. But EV owners will want assurances that a decent share will offer super-fast charging to minimise time spent plugged in and ensure that any incidents of crossed wires between drivers are few and far between. Nick Smith, ITV News.
The growing conversation around menopause has led to the government calling it a priority area and committing to investing £25 million into nationwide women's health hubs.
But the Menopause All-Party Parliamentary Group say this is not enough and wants all women over 40 to be offered menopause checks every 5 years by their GP. Amrit Birdie has more.
Like many women, when Carol Orr from Doncaster first started getting menopause symptoms, she wasn't quite sure what was happening to her.
I suppose I've been having problems for about 14 years, if I'm honest, but never joined the dots. I've had sweats, the night sweats, put that down to one thing. I've had joint pain, put that down to something else. I've had brain fog, put that down to something else. But it's only in the last couple of years that they started to get exponentially worse. And it's only when we started doing some health and wellbeing menopause things at work that I actually thought, do you know what, this could all be linked to the same thing.
Is it okay we do your blood pressure first? Let's go.
Women often report feeling blindsided by their menopause symptoms, according to Dr. Claire Phipps, who has pushed to introduce regular menopause checks for patients at this private clinic.
Including menopause within a health check is really important because it allows us to educate and empower women. It really allows us to teach women and let women learn about what their own hormones are doing and what they are involved in. And I think at a time when, you know, menopause is being talked about, I'm still surprised by the number of women that I see that just don't know that their symptoms are perimenopause related.
For Claire's patients, regular checkups to talk specifically about menopause symptoms have been life-changing.
It's great to get some help, and it's great to feel that you're not alone, and actually if you are feeling symptoms of something, there is something that you can do about it rather than just suffer in silence.
Menopause checks are available at private healthcare clinics like this one. They're not yet readily available as a service on the NHS, but there are people campaigning for that to change, and they want it to change soon.
The idea that GPs are too busy to add another duty to their list of expectations just seems to me absolutely unworkable. You can't say that 50% of the population should be ruled out because GPs don't have the time for them. The fact of the matter is that we've got to a point now where menopause is recognised as having a significant impact on women's lives in midlife. And we know what to do about it. We know how to support it. So for it not to be mentioned at the 40-something health check makes no sense.
The government insists that they are prioritising menopause, and they tell us over a year on from the launch of the first ever women's health strategy, they are successfully tackling the hormone replacement therapy shortage and have seen an increase of 47% in the number of women accessing HRT. With £25 million being invested in women's health hubs and a dedicated women's health area being added to the NHS website, it's hoped fewer women will suffer in silence and uncertainty when it comes to the menopause. Amrit Birdie, ITV News.
The ITV Evening News continues at 6:30 with Mary Nightingale. Here are the details.
Coming up in the programme, homes without power, schools closed and hundreds of cars marooned, their lives being disrupted by severe weather. Heavy snow has led to a major incident being declared in Cumbria with warnings for heavy rain and potential flooding elsewhere. The government's new plan to lower record numbers of legal migration to the UK. And homeward bound after 12 years, Edinburgh's giant pandas head for China. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
And Chesterfield have their loyal fans to thank for getting their FA Cup game off the ground.
Oh, they very much do, Sally, as heavy snowfall on Saturday night into Sunday meant the pitch at the Technique Stadium needed to be cleared from snow. And after putting out a call on social media, hundreds of fans responded with their shovels to clear the pitch and get the game on. And what better way to thank the fans than with a giant killing as they beat League One Leyton Orient thanks to this own goal.
Massive well done to them. I think when you play a team from higher leagues, you're going to have to defend well. I thought our organisation at the back restricted Orient to very few chances. To see it out 1-0, great credit to the players. We're delighted to be in the third round. It's good for our club. It's great for the National League. I feel we carry the National League's hopes really well. You know, we wish Orient well, we move on.
As you say, you know, there weren't very many chances. The goal when it came was an own.
Now, Chesterfield's prize for that win is a third-round tie against Watford of the Championship, a team 3 leagues and 63 places above them in the pyramid. Elsewhere, the most notable tie sees Huddersfield go to holders Manchester City, Rotherham are away to Premier League Fulham, and Sheffield United face a tricky tie away to Gillingham of League 2. Now, to the Championship, in Sheffield Wednesday picked up just their second win of the season as they beat Blackburn. It was a day 18-year-old Bailey Tyke Kadamatri won't forget as he scored his first senior goal for the Owls after just 5 minutes. Wednesday went on to win that game 3-1, and Leeds made it 7 straight home wins after beating Middlesbrough at Ellen Road. Headers from Dan James and Crescencio Somerville, 2 of the shortest players on the pitch, helped Leeds to a 3-2 win. And Hull lost at home for the first time as Wes Hoot's 40-yard lob won the game for Watford at the MKM. And finally from me, Kevin Sinfield has completed his 4th ultramarathon up in Edinburgh this afternoon. In support of his close friend and former teammate Rob Burrow, Sinfield is running 7 ultramarathons in 7 days across 7 cities in the UK and Ireland. So far, he's raised over £300,000 and tomorrow he'll do it all over again in Dublin. Now, I've lost count how many times we've said this, but Kevin Sinfield, he really is superhuman, isn't he?
He really is. He just amazes me on a daily basis. It's fantastic what he's doing, isn't it?
Brilliant.
And those fans at Chesterfield all pitching in to clear the pitch of snow, that's a real team effort, isn't it?
it is.
Yeah, well impressed with that. Good for them. Ari, thanks very much
You're welcome.
indeed.
Now, finally, Santa's little helpers have been busy doing a good deed in Barnsley today, and it meant that one local good cause got a pretty impressive early Christmas present.
Yes, more than 200 youngsters did a bit of festive fitness with the aim of raising thousands of pounds for a nearby hospice and, of course, burning a few calories so they can enjoy an extra helping of Christmas pud. Sarah Clark went to see them in action.
Ho, ho, ho. Elf, ready, steady, go.
With the boss in charge, there was no time for elfing around for these pupils from Parkside Primary in Barnsley. They had a festive fundraising mission to complete, laps at the school hall and an exercise class.
We're wearing elf hats because we're doing the elf run.
And how many laps did you do?
4, 5.
5 laps, that's incredible. And what were you doing the laps for? What were you running for?
To raise money for the hospice.
How many laps did you do?
4.
4 laps, that's really, really good, isn't it? Are you enjoying taking part in this elf run?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because I like it. You're losing a bit of your energy and your giggles out. Because you're raising money and that's kind.
All the sponsorship money will go towards Barnsley Hospice, which provides specialist end-of-life care for people living with a life-limiting illness.
These elves behind you are Santa's Little Helpers, but do you think they're more community Little Helpers at the moment?
Yeah, I am just so proud. It's a fabulous charity. They do so much for our community that this is our way of giving something back. And it's important that they realise that it is important to do things as a collective, and it's about kind of service beyond yourself and that citizenship aspect. We can all do something. It might be something small, but together we make a massive difference.
This is the first elf run, but the second Christmas event the whole school has taken part in for the Barnsley charity.
Absolutely amazing. £5,000 that the school raised last year is a phenomenal amount. We don't see that happen very often, and especially at this time of year as well. Christmas time can be hard for local people, so to support a local charity at this time of year as well is so lovely.
Who's the fastest?
Me definitely. Me. I got certificates, I was the fastest. Mommy.
Wow, did everyone get a certificate?
No, just me.
But everyone does deserve a rest for all their effort. Well, at least until the next class, that is. Sarah Clark, ITV News.
Oh, good for them. They're as good at resting as they are at running, I think, aren't they? They do them both as well.
Is it me? Am I getting old? Because Santa looked very young there.
Well, it's just keeping fit, you see, it keeps you young.
Of course.
Now, it's pretty wet across most of the region today, I think it's fair to say, but over the weekend it was a really wintry picture, wasn't it?
It certainly was. I put my tree up, did you?
I did, yes.
Oh, very good. And it's all very, very Christmassy with snow on the ground too. And it was, well, good of the weather to play ball, wasn't it?
It was. A dusting of snow while people trimmed up was very welcome. This was the scene at Dalby Forest up on the North York Moors yesterday. Want to be careful driving through that, wouldn't you? But what a winter wonderland scene it is.
And of course, not everyone likes being out in the snow. It's pretty to look at, of course. But, well, let's see what the forecast has in store. Here's Chris Page.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello there. Very good evening to you. Across much of the region today, it's been fairly cloudy, but a lot of snowfall through the weekend. Some of that's still lingering at the moment, although as we go through the week ahead, after a chilly start, it's going to gradually turn much milder. But that means we'll be beginning to see some further outbreaks of wind and rain, the other side to autumn. It's this area of low pressure that's been the main focus for those showers through today, but hot on its heels, another area of low pressure as we go through the rest of this week, spiralling their way through, which will bring us a rather wet and windy picture to come, particularly as we head towards Thursday. Actually, look at the tightly packed isobars on the chart there, suggesting some rather windy weather on the horizon. But for the rest of this evening and overnight, we've still got a lot of that cloud around, still some showery bursts of rain too. Could even be falling a little bit of snowfall over the tops of the Pennines, but for most of us, frost-free. And we start tomorrow with temperatures around 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. Still a fairly grey and cloudy start to the day on Tuesday. And we continue to feed in the showers, this time still some sharp ones from the North Sea there, but tending to turn a lot drier the further west you are, with some brightening spells of sunshine and highs here between 5 and 6 degrees Celsius, which is still below average for this time of year. As we leave Tuesday and go into Wednesday, well, we'll have cold and clear skies overnight. Notice the blues developing on the chart here, so quite a harsh frost on Wednesday morning with some sunshine, and then we start to see the next band of cloud and rain pushing its way in from the west. Tightening of the isobars suggesting the winds will gradually strengthen through the day on Wednesday, but I suspect on Wednesday, after a cold start, there will be some sunshine. Make the most of it though, because something wetter and windier arrives as we head to Thursday. Take care.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Well, it seems like the pretty winter weather has gone for now, been replaced by some rain, but it will be back, I'm sure.
I know. Well, we'll just have to put up with it for the time being, won't we? That's all from us for tonight. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night at 6. Good night.
Bye-bye.